Welcome back to the Kentucky Adventure Tour, otherwise known as the CAT. Today we're driving from Holly Bay all the way down to Split Bow Arch and Big South Fork. So come along for some rough roads, a scenic river, some beautiful bridges, a serious V-notch, and some equipment-eating mud holes. Well, and there is that arch at the end too, along with a beautiful view. Bill rarely starts his overlanding day without bacon and a nice breakfast. We decided to stay another night at B Rock and save ourselves a camp setup, so today we were going without the trailer. Our first stop that morning was at the very scenic Laurel River Lake. Laurel River Lake is a 5,600-acre clear water reservoir that was built by the Army Corps of Engineers in 1977. With almost 200 miles of tree-lined shore, you can boat, fish, ski, and even scuba dive here. After leaving the lake behind, we found ourselves driving along Bark Camp Creek, along with, well, there were several other 4x4 high-clearance vehicles driving this road today. Hello! Despite some interesting rock formations and a hiking trail, we decided to bypass the crowd and keep driving. That hiking trail along Bark Camp Creek, it's a 5-mile out-and-back trail that's a moderate trail. And it looks like it would be absolutely beautiful in wet weather and in the spring. Why? Well, it's got some nice little waterfalls. Further up along this same road, there's another parking area for another hiking trail to a waterfall. That 2.5-mile trail leads you to a 15-foot waterfall known as Dog Slaughter Falls. Legend has it that the falls were named this because late 1700s era hunters, they often lost their dogs in the area to wild animals. As we were driving this road in October, and it was fairly dry out, we skipped both of those trails to falls and instead tried to seek out viewpoints instead. The roads that morning had been groomed, easy Forest Service roads. This particular viewpoint, however, had an exit that was a little bit tricky, a foreshadowing of things to come. Several decades ago, a 15-year-old Kentucky boy started riding his first motorcycle. By the age of 17, he discovered a love of riding those single-track trails and country roads through the hills and forests of eastern Kentucky. In the many years that followed, he continued driving those single tracks and country roads as well as racing in cross-country hare scrambles all over the United States. In 2006 and 2007, he found himself driving the entire Trans-America Trail across the U.S. Riding the Trans-America Trail got him thinking. It really wasn't all that technical, and you still had the logistical nightmare of getting your bike home again after riding more than 5,000 miles. So that's when the boy from Kentucky, he decided he could take his experiences from eastern Kentucky and create a huge loop trail with technical sections for dual sport motorcycles. After 6 years of development, Jeff Stess, that Kentucky boy who created the CAT, he publicly released the details of the nearly 1,000 miles making up the Kentucky Adventure Tour. Today, over 10 years later, the CAT includes routes for both street-legal motorcycles and street-legal 4x4s. The current CAT is about 40% paved country roads and 60% dirt, gravel, or trails. Stess actively continues to monitor those trails as well as seek out new trails to add to the CAT. With several changes every year, including addition of new dirt sections, closures due to private property right, or closures due to damage, it's advisable to make sure you've downloaded the most recent map from the Facebook page for the Kentucky Adventure Tour. With a variety of easy trails coupled with 10 alternate hard routes and waypoints such as a subterranean river, rock arches, a historic settlement, Civil War battlefield, scenic vista, and enough rocks, river crossings, and mud holes to keep the most demanding rider or driver happy, the CAT has a little of something for everyone. You never know what's around the next turn when you're driving the Kentucky Adventure Tour. That easy road, it can turn into a moderate, challenging section in the blink of an eye. This is the River Road, and it's definitely a section of the CAT with attitude. If you're driving the Cat on a motorcycle, Stes highly recommends full knobby tires. If you're driving it in the 4x4, he recommends at least 31-inch tires and a rear locker. Regardless of what you're driving, it's also highly recommended that you have off-road experience before driving the Kentucky Adventure Tour. It's also highly advisable that you take recovery gear and a friend along just in case. Although Bill and I were confident that we could have pulled our trailer behind us that day through this section, this was definitely one of the more technical sections that we had encountered so far. If you've ever wondered why there's tread on the sidewalls of aggressive tires, this is a perfect example. Keep in mind that there are no paper maps for the Cat. You need to download the information before you leave. Why? Because there's so much information that simply can't be contained in a regular paper map. Not to mention, with all the changes over the years, you'd never know if you had the right one. By this time, it was early afternoon, and all of our stomachs were grumbling. We usually would have stopped an hour or more before for lunch. We still hadn't found just the right place. We were starting to wonder if we ever would. But then our maps showed a beautiful river down at the bottom of the hill, and we knew what we had to look for. This is the Cumberland River. It runs over 700 miles and drains over 18,000 square miles of watershed. Thankfully, we found one section of the National Forest that extended from the Cat all the way down to the river. Unfortunately, the dispersed campsite we found there was covered in trash. But we didn't really want to eat up at the campsite anyway. Instead, we found a beautiful view overlooking the river. You never know quite what to expect when you're sitting on a riverbank watching the world go by. But today, we were surprised to see this. That's what that guy's saying. Sploosh. It would be. You can do it, buddy. We're not going to do anything to you. Those 8 does playing in the river, they eventually wandered back into the woods and left us with the river again. Our lunch spot that day was just downstream from the Summer Shoals. This is an area where 16.1 miles of the Cumberland River have been designated as a Kentucky Wild River. Here, the Cumberland River is wide, shallow, and gentle. But 13 miles downstream from this point, this same tranquil, smooth water, it plummets at a rate of over 3,600 cubic feet per second over the 68-foot drop that is Cumberland Falls. A man by the name of John O'Donohue once said, "I would love to live like a river flows, carried by the surprise of its own unfolding." And just like that water that has no idea where it's headed or what's going to happen, we too knew it was time to leave and make our way further along the Kentucky Adventure Tour. Soon after leaving the Cumberland River behind, we found ourselves driving on paved country roads, basking in the vibrant greens of the earth and the brilliant blues of the sky. The road for a time appeared to be just like that river, smooth, calm, and tranquil. But as you already know on the cat, the waterfall is coming. This little challenge was just a ripple in the creek. And then some smooth, scenic gravel roads. They sang the dulcet tones suggesting that this was going to be an easy drive all the way to Split Bow Arch. But it wasn't. At first, you just started out with some of those slick, muddy ruts. Nothing too major, though they kept sucking the Jeep back into them. But those ruts kept getting deeper and deeper until you came down a hill to find this. Even after you traversed down that steep and deep V-notch, there was still one more main obstacle on the trail that we had to face. One that my camera gimbal was not going to like. Here it comes! And that's how my camera gimbal died a murky and muddy death. But we couldn't mourn for too long, because we had at least one more hill to climb. Welcome to the beautiful Big South Fork and the road to Split Bow Arch. The Split Bow Arch Trail is a 0.7-mile moderate loop. It takes you down into a beautiful tree-lined rocky ravine. If you do decide to stop and visit Split Bow Arch, don't just stop at the overlook. You can barely see anything. Instead, make sure you do take at least the 0.3-mile out and back trail down to see the arch itself. It's well worth the hike.
How amazing it is it grew up and out of there.
Split Bow Arch is a 50-foot high and 52-foot wide waterfall arch. No, it doesn't mean you'll find a big waterfall here, but it does mean that it was formed by the passage of either a waterfall or another watercourse. Before you leave the parking lot for Split Bow Arch, I also highly recommend taking the half-mile out and back trail. It's an easy trail to see the view at Bear Creek Overlook. And if you like old ruins, these were very interesting to check out across the street from the parking lot. I hope you enjoyed traveling the cat with us from Holly Bay all the way down to Split Bow Arch, and I hope you'll come back tomorrow when we explore the Rock Castle Narrows. Thanks for watching. Now go out and find your own adventure.